Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to give you guys the final update for the big brake kit for the 6th gen Celica. This is going to be only for the 94 to 99 model year. Whether you have ST, a GT, SS2, SS-III, Super Strut as I have here, or McPherson, this is only going to be applicable towards the front wheel drive model of the Celica. This technically would work on the ST207, the Curren, technically the Carina. I think people have the Carina, don't really mess with these cars, so I think it's mostly Curren and Celica. Whether it's the US spec coupe convertible or the liftback version. And I was basically the architect behind this design. I saw a lot of people doing the Avensis front rotors and calipers, the bolt-on solution. But then I saw that Hone Development came up with this kit for their Integras and Civics. So that got me to thinking, and after like 60 to 65 hours of test fitting and planning, I finally got this kit basically where I want it. It needs a slight tweak. But the first couple iterations of the brackets, as you can see here on the floor, this was all made of 3D printed PLA. This is about 80% infill because it needs enough material so that when you tap it, the walls don't start to crack. This one's a lot lighter material, but still good enough here. You can see some of the designs here. One moment, my helicopter passes. So with this design, you can see there's a large arch. I got that design from a guy who was adapting LS430 calipers and rotors to a Caldina. And this is all cool and everything, but this costs more to make that design, especially because you're going to basically need a CNC machine to get the arch in the correct degrees. And then on the second iteration, the brackets are getting smaller and smaller. So he kind of notched out these portions here to clear the knuckle ears. But even then, that's also difficult to replicate when you're doing this bracket by hand, if you're machining it by hand. And then we moved on to this design here. This guy was someone who helped me out from the forum, so the Facebook group. And then I found this guy who I messaged a while ago. He's more in the MR2 crowd, but he recommended these cutouts here, recommended this design here. It's much easier to machine by hand. And then we adopted this design from the Hone Development kit. So I got a lot of the ideas and hardware that was used on the Hone Development kit for the Hondas to come up with the hardware that I use. Would there be enough material to torque down the bolts to spec without them coming loose? What's the grade of material that I should use for the hardware? Brakes need 10.9 or higher. Also, someone else came out with this kit using the stock 7th gen rotors and the same calipers. So I kind of got all these different ideas and I mashed them together and understood their design and engineering behind the brackets and came up with this kit by myself. And so this guy who helped me out making these second designs, he basically has a lot of experience. He does a lot of CAD work, and he worked at a machine shop for 4 or 5 years. So he even designed and made his own products in the past. But you can see that this final iteration here, which basically looks like this one. The current one for the Super Strut doesn't have this divot here, this little valley to remove material for weight. I think when I do it for the McPherson one, because the McPherson one needs a little bit more height, I might include it on there just to keep things lighter on the side of McPherson, though technically the McPherson suspension geometry is lighter than the Super Strut overall. So if I don't have that little divot there, it'll probably make it a lot easier to machine and it'll be a cheaper cost overall. And next I want to talk about the whole setup, rotors, pads, and the caliper themselves. So we have the Avensis 295 by 26 millimeters. The pads, you can only select the ceramics or the carbon fiber ceramics from POWER STOP, since they're the only ones that offer a 14.9 millimeter pad. You can see here, this one's a little bit loose, so I need to adjust the caliper bracket, and you need to add about a material, 1 millimeter of material on the inside here where my thumb is tapping. This will allow it to space it inward towards the car, and this will shift this caliper inward and have it so that both of them slide in easily, because that one on the inside is binding a little bit, because that one's a 14.9, this one's a 14.8 millimeter. And then once you like go through your first set of pads, I think the carbon fiber ceramics are a really good option. They're almost exactly identical to the StopTech Sport pads, which I'm currently running on this car. I mean, I'm not going to bolt everything now when I drive the car out of here, since I'm not quite ready to get everything settled on the super short side of things. But the carbon ceramics are really good, and they'll be even better because this is larger heat capacity for this setup. So after you get used to those, then you can go to something that look like a low semi-metallic or like a full metallic pad. And then as far as the rotors go, if you are converted to a 5x114, there's an equivalent Toyota Avensis T27 chassis, either in the saloon or the sedan. Saloon is considered a wagon in Europe. So yeah, there's a 5x114 option that's going to be exactly bolt-on Toyota. Everything will fit just like this one does. And the rotor spec calls to replace it at 23 millimeters. I think you can extend that a little bit further, because the Avensis T25 chassis weighs like, I think 300 pounds more than this car. So nonetheless, you will have to get these rotors from overseas. And I found them on eBay for about like 170, might be a little bit more now. But and then as far as the benefits of this design, this is a radially mounted bracket. It's not a true radially mounted bracket because it's not mounting directly to the knuckle, but it's more like what the GR Corolla is, you know, the bracket and then the radial mounts going into that bracket. So it's like almost as rigid as a directly mounted, you know, radial caliper bracket, which you would find on like this stock base and Boxster S. So it's a very rigid setup, I believe, and from what I read, people's reviews, the feedback is superb. And then the backing plate, you can choose to remove yours or cut it away. I think you're gonna have to cut it away because the OEM one, I threw them in the trash because they're rusted, but the OEM ones kind of goes over, so it won't allow you to fit the rotors on there. I installed a Camry 2002 till 2006, or the ES300 to ES330, and I modified it a bit. 3 of the holes are bolted on. One of them is not bolted on because it goes in a weird spot, but I don't see it moving anytime soon. And then as far as the caliper design, you know, I looked at the LS430, but those are way too large, in that the brake force would be way too much of a difference. With these ones, the brake torque is increased with the larger rotor, but then we balance that out because we have calipers which have a smaller piston surface area than what is found on the Celica SS-III and on the Celica SS-II, whether that is McPherson or Super Strut. So we account for that thing, and it doesn't affect the system at all. You know, brake pedal input does not increase at all. Like if you were to have the LS430s, it would be that much more down to the floor, but this one is going to remain as is. And I looked at that math on Hone Development's website just to, you know, confirm that. And it has the trailing and leading basically caliper design. So you have a smaller piston here, larger one here, and it's going to allow for a better pad wear and better feedback or modulation, as they call it, when you're on the track. And these calipers are from a 987 Boxster base model, so the 2.5 or the 2.7 liter. And I'll give you supply the part numbers and descriptions of all these things in the description or in the comment section down below. Unfortunately, you cannot use the OEM pad shims. They're like weighted things. I have them over there, but they don't fit. Maybe after you get the rotors down to like 24 millimeters, I think you might be able to stuff them in there, but those tend to rust, especially if you live in salty areas, so I wouldn't really recommend it. But you can just put brake grease on the portions that contact the ears and here on all four corners, and that should quiet it down mostly. And then as far as the pricing, I'm pretty sure I know what I want it to be, but that really just depends on how many people are going to, you know, buy into this first batch. I'm trying to look for at least 5, if not a little bit more. So I'll be making out of a 6061 T6 grade aluminum, and I'll be including the 10.9 grade hardware, you know, nuts, bolts, washers, and the only thing you'll have to supply yourself would be the rotors and the calipers, and that pretty much covers it all. So if you guys have any other questions, if anybody else is in the area that can help me make the last iterations, because I cannot take all this stuff to a junkyard, so I'll need someone who's local to me to help me design the last bracket for the McPherson, and that should be all. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one.